Thank you so much for joining Optimistic Opportunities. This is Season 2, Episode 3, and you are in for a treat today. Stephen Ray Miller is joining us. He also lives in Durham, North Carolina, and he is an artist and picture framer. Our sponsor for Optimistic Opportunities is Carl Johnson Real Estate at Coldwell Banker HPW. We are a local real estate firm serving the Raleigh-Durham Chapel Hill area. If you have needs outside of that area, we have partnerships across the nation so we can align you with our trusted partners. We don't just list properties for sale, we market them. Also, ask us about our concierge service for buyers. Visit carljohnsonrealestate.com. And again, that's carljohnsonrealestate.com for more episodes of Optimistic Opportunities and more information about our sponsor. Now back to our program. Stephen, thank you so much for joining us today.
Happy to be here, Carl.
So, full disclosure about my relationship with Stephen. I've known Stephen for, gosh, I don't know. We haven't rehearsed this. How many years?
Almost 20.
Almost 20 years now. So I met Stephen, I think, before I had my advertising agency or after? Or
No, when you had your advertising agency, that was going to be my big thank you for help launching my very first website almost 20 years ago.
Oh my gosh. So is that how we first met each other, is when I was networking and I met you? Okay. So I've known Stephen since I had an advertising agency. He was one of my clients. He is a powerhouse person in our community in Durham. He was voted best artist in Durham 3 years in a row by Durham Magazine, and also best gallery and frame shop by Durham Magazine. So he is super cool guy. Put a plug in for Durham Magazine and my friend Stephen too. So why not throw all those cards on the table today? So getting into the content, because this is really not a commercial. This is about content today. We are continuing to develop our episodes to be stories of struggles and strength. So today, Stephen's going to talk on the business side of that. Next week, I believe our guest is going to talk to the personal side of that, of a story of a struggle and a strength. So we are here to look at what these struggles do in our lives and how we apply those struggles to turn them into strengths in our life. And with that optimistic viewpoint, we can truly, utilize that time that we spent and apply it to doing things differently in our lives. So, Stephen, you have two really cool stories. You came up with two. I'm not surprised. You actually had three. I was like, whoa, we have to stay at 10 minutes. But Stephen has a really cool first story about, I can't remember what you called this story. What was the title of it?
It's the American Stock Exchange story.
The American Stock Exchange story. So that's very compelling. So tell me, what was the struggle there?
Short version, I was commissioned in the early 80s by the chairman of the American Stock Exchange to do a painting of the interior of the stock exchange. Went down, took a bunch of photos, did the painting, made an appointment, went to see him. I could tell immediately he was not happy. I'm 31 years old at this time, and he says, "So what's my obligation here?" And I said, "None." And I said, "It's a good painting. I'll sell it to somebody else. If it was a painting of your cat, I would have been stuck with it." But anyway. So it was a blow, obviously, and a big surprise.
Well, you're 30. I'm assuming you're starting your career somewhat.
Agreed.
Is that true?
And it was a $900 painting. I wasn't expecting to get stiffed for it, but I was. And what I learned was my mistake. I didn't communicate with him enough to find out what he wanted. So particularly if you're doing any kind of custom work, find out what your customer wants. That was my mistake. And the other mistake is get some money up front. So I learned that in the early 80s, and that was a very, very helpful lesson.
So were you living in Manhattan at that time?
Oh, no, I've never lived in Manhattan. I was still based in Rock Hill, South Carolina. Yeah.
In Rock Hill. If you talk a little slower, I think your internet connection's a little unstable, so I'm missing a couple words.
I'm sorry to hear that, and I do talk too fast. See, I never lived in Manhattan, but I was raised nearby.
Yes. Where was that?
White Plains and Mamaroneck, New York.
Ah, gotcha. Okay. That's what I was remembering, the New York connection. Okay.
Correct.
So your takeaway is get a deposit if you're doing custom work.
Absolutely.
Dig a little deeper on what your client wants.
Definitely.
And in doing so, I guess that's really building more of a relationship with them because you're having a longer conversation.
Well, and it's just more communicative. So it's better for both sides. You know,
right.
Your customer will be happy and you'll know better how to make them happy. That's all good.
Exactly. So your second story is the worthless handshake story, I believe.
Correct.
So tell me, what does that mean?
In the early 90s, I was living in Los Angeles, and in my 45-year career, the only 2 worthless handshakes and bounce bad check I've ever gotten were from my Los Angeles days, be that as it may. I had just painted this painting here, Still Waters, and it was getting a great reception, and I made a handshake with a very charismatic, big deal publisher, and he was going to publish it. This was at a convention, expo. And I was thrilled, and I basically put all of my promotion on hold for a year, awaiting this big, career-changing opportunity. Long story short, it was a worthless handshake. And my version, I said to him finally, so I guess your handshake was a bit premature, which I guess is my version of bless your heart. And good news is, I went on to publish it myself. It's become really the keystone painting of my career. And if he had published it, I might never have gotten paid and it would have been different. And so, it worked out very well in the end. But I have to say to everybody, it's very weird for me to see it backwards after looking at forwards for 30 years. It's like, wait a minute. Anyway, that's my issue. Sorry about that.
The software I use actually flips everything when we're looking at it, so it's strange.
Well, I'm largely dyslexic, and as a printmaker, I've had to print things left to right. So I've lived in that world, but it's just funny in this case, after 30 years, for it to be flipped.
Exactly. So I think I'm getting a little feedback from your speaker now, too. So maybe your volume down a little bit on your end.
I'll try.
Just turn down the output of your volume.
I hope that works. Sorry, everybody. I'm real prozo with these things.
Oh, no worries. You're an artist. You're not supposed to be technologically savvy.
Well, that's a whole other discussion, isn't it?
Well, I mean, when I helped you build your first website so you could, e-commerce your art, there is, you do what you do well, and you have other people do stuff that they do well. So it's kind of like spend your time doing what you're good at doing.
That's a whole other discussion. I agree entirely, and that's been very helpful for me these last few years.
Yeah.
Very.
I'm trying to do that more in my business as well.
Sure.
I'd like to do that more in my personal life as well, but I get stuck doing everything else for myself personally. Oh, well. So we have covered our topic, and I really kind of want to stay online with you for just a minute and ask you another question. So I'm going to throw you a curveball, Stephen, and I don't normally do this with guests, but I know you can handle it.
Here we go. We'll find out.
So after 20 years of knowing you, how are you surviving during this pretty much still staying at home as much as you possibly can? Now that we've lost you. Hold on, Stephen.
Well,
okay, you're back.
Okay, good. Well, I'm in a very uniquely fortunate situation, and my gallery and frame shop is in my backyard. So I'm here, and I've been very busy, and I'm doing my calendars and my jigsaw puzzles at this time of year. So that's, getting everything out there, and people can find me online or come down the driveway. Either way, I've been very busy. So far, so good.
So are you staying home more than you usually stay home? Or are
yes,
you
I'm
staying
home. No, I'm home pretty much 24/7, taking care of my mom.
and that's more than you usually are, is that correct?
Oh yeah, yeah. For about a year, I've been home pretty much 24/7, except for Tuesdays.
Right. So is that difficult for you?
Almost all the time, no. Every
Okay.
once in a while, yeah. Sure.
Because I know you really like to go out there and see all your people you know in the community and say hello to everybody and shake everybody's hand. I figure you eventually should be the mayor, and because you just love to go work the room and work the community and say hello to everybody. Do you miss that?
That's true. Well, really, about 2 or 3 years ago, I started staying at home a lot more and not going out as much, and I found it was a lot more productive because I wear a couple of hats, and if I'm driving around town, I'm not getting any of that done. If I'm here, I can be painting or being a shipping clerk or framing or whatever. And so I'm really glad I made that transition a while ago, and I'm finding that people are doing home improvement. It's not literally a canvas from Africa that's been rolled up for a couple of years. They've now brought to me to frame. Terrific.
Right.
So that's all real good, real good. And this whole online universe, you and I can now talk to the world. That's amazing.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, our family, my immediate family, my wife and kid, we are actually getting ready to roll out some improvements and renovations on our house now after being in the house for basically about 15 years. That's kind of your tipping point a lot of times. So we're also discovering that we're like, wow, we really should take care of that. We're here more often. So like everybody, we're uncovering that as well. So.
Well, it's been, a crazy time for all of us, and yet it's impacted me a lot less than most, and in certain ways I have benefited, partially because I have the opportunity to keep on working from home. That's a big deal.
Exactly.
That's really where I need to be.
So we're at time, Stephen. That was just so delightful to hear your American Stock Exchange and your worthless handshake. But at Carl Johnson Real Estate at Coldwell Banker HBW, we don't have a worthless handshake. We will represent your best interests at all times and look out for your best interests and sometimes protect you from yourself. So go to carljohnsonrealestate.com. That's carljohnsonrealestate.com. And thank you very much, Stephen, for joining us today. You're such a joy.
Thank you, Carl. I still have to figure out the camera.
Really appreciate knowing you. And everybody have a great day. And please remember to go out there and help one another. Y'all have a great day. Tune in next week for our next episode. Bye-bye.
Bye, Carl.